Hello, it's Ryan from 2MinuteTennis.net and welcome to Friday Q&A episode 9. This is where I answer your tennis questions. If you have a question that you'd like to have me include in an upcoming episode, throw it in the comments below and I might just pick your question in the future. Now this video is sponsored by playercourt.com. If you want to play more tennis and find people in your local area to compete against, maybe in a league or even just hit with and practice with, or if you're looking for a coach who's nearby, use my link in the description at playercourt.com/2MinuteTennis to get 50% off when you join. All right, 3 great questions today. I am so excited. The first one is from Guilty Spark. Hey Ryan, any tips on earlier ball recognition? Sometimes I find myself trying to scoop up a ball at my feet while standing on the baseline, and after the point I think to myself about how I should have been a few steps farther back, but I didn't read the ball in time to realize that during the point. Great question, super excited to answer that. Next question from Nick Hogue. What are the main reasons why someone would be consistent with their ground strokes in practice, but inconsistent during games? This is a fun topic. Cannot wait to answer that, Nick, so thank you so much. And last, we've got Colin Byer. On backhand volleys, it looks like a lot of high-level players and pros are almost hitting a complete slice on their volley. Is this true, or does it just look like they're slicing it, but they really aren't trying to hit a slice? 3 great questions. If the answers to these questions interest you, stick around and let's get started. Now let's first answer Nick's question about practice versus play. This is a really common thing that players struggle with. And it's actually the first thing I have written down here. Most players play worse in matches than they do in practice. So right off the bat, realize, Nick, this is a level playing field. Most players are better in practice, or they perceive that they're better in practice, which we're going to talk about. They perceive that they're better in practice than they are in play. So if you're someone who, you can practice at an 8, but when you go out and play, you always seem to be like a 5 on your scale of 1 to 10, your opponents feel the exact same way, or most of them feel the exact same way. It's just across the board what most people feel in my years of experience at coaching. Now, the next thing is, why is that? So the first thing, there's pressure. You have an opponent when you're actually playing. You have someone who's trying to lower your level of play. If you go out and say, hey, let's hit 30 shots back and forth cross court with our forehands. Okay, so your opponent's just going to hit to your forehand over and over and over again. Well, guess what? If you're playing a match, your opponent is not going to give you forehands over and over and over again, right? They're going to give you backhands. They're not going to give you the shot that you want. So when you're playing a smart opponent, and as our level of play goes up, typically we're going to play people who are smarter and can sabotage the way we're playing. They're looking to actually get us to play worse. So realize that your opponent in a match is treating you differently than your hitting partner in practice. The next idea, kind of what I just touched upon, I don't want you, when you're practicing, Nick, and for all you watching, I don't want you to just groove your shots. Kind of the example I just gave. Hey, let's hit 30 shots cross court back and forth. Let's hit 30 backhands cross court back and forth. That doesn't mimic the way you play tennis. I like to play the cello, right? If I'm going to prepare for Mozart, I'm not going to just play the F sharp over and over and over again. Like, how is playing the same note over and over and over again actually helping me play a piece of music? It's not. And that's what happens when people go out and practice. And Craig O'Shaughnessy talks about this, that the practice court is broken, that it doesn't actually mimic the way we play a match. What I would rather you do, Nick, is actually create a sequence of shots that you're trying to execute. Like, okay, you practice second serve return. So you return the second serve down the line and you attack the net. Or you can chip it and go forward, like a chip and charge. Back in the 80s and 90s, they used to do that all the time. I can remember Patrick Rafter doing that a lot, one of my heroes growing up. You could practice on the serve, serving out wide and hitting the next shot into the open court, moving forward and then knocking off the next shot as a volley. Create a sequence of shots that you're practicing rather than the same shot over and over again. Because when you do the grooving, all of a sudden by that 10th shot, 15th shot, 30th shot, man, are you feeling good? Well, you're never going to get 20 forehands in a row when you're actually playing a match. That doesn't happen. Points are too short. So make sure that your practice court matches the match court in what you're actually trying to accomplish during the points. One thing from Craig O'Shaughnessy is, it's an amazing stat that 70% of pro points are 4 shots or less. 7 out of 10. And it's 5 to 8 is 20%, and 9 and more is only 10% of the points that are played. So points are not long. So you want to figure out how to win points actually in a short amount of shots rather than thinking, oh, I'm just going to outlast my opponent. It doesn't really help you level up your game. And the last thing is kind of the 7-shot game. So imagine playing a tiebreaker, Nick, to 10, right? You're going to play a tiebreaker to 10, but the point cannot last more than 7 shots. And if the point goes 8 or more shots, you have to replay the point. This is a drill that one of the coaches I used to work with, Corey and I, used to do all the time. And we would set it up where the players had to win the point on 7 shots or less. And the reason we did this is we noticed that players would just hit down the middle, and they weren't actually dictating play. This means with 7 shots that the server gets 4 shots to hit the ball, serve being the first one, and the receiver only gets to hit the ball 3 times. And then you're trading off, so it's equal, right? You're playing a tiebreaker, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, it's equal. What this does is it gets the players very early in the point to try to set the point up. And it also makes sure that any short ball that comes their way, they have to go in because they can't squander any short ball. You'll be shocked how quickly 7 shots go. So just understanding that most people feel this way. You have an opponent in a match who's actually trying to beat you and you're trying to beat them, right? That it equals itself out. When you practice, don't groove your shots over and over, but actually practice a sequence of shots that you're going to use in the 7-shot drill when you're actually practicing. When you start practicing this way, it'll actually help you translate the way you practice into your matches. Now, question number 2 from Guilty Spark was about early ball recognition. Knowing where the ball is going to arrive, knowing where you need to stand on the court to hit your best shot. And Guilty, here is just a simple drill that you can use. First, just realize on either side of your body, on forehand and backhand, there are 3 zones. There's low, there's medium, and there's high. So the low zone is from your ankle to your hip. So if you're playing the ball from ankle to hip, that is the low zone, zone number 1. From your hip to your shoulder, that's zone number 2. And from your shoulder up, that's zone number 3. It is best to play tennis in between your hips and your shoulders. And if you can play between your hip and shoulder and do this as often as possible, that ball is right in your strike zone and you can really hit a great shot. A ball that's way up above your head, especially on your backhand side, a ball that's super low, those are the areas, zone 3 and zone 1, that get you to play worse. Zone number 2 is where we play our best. So then the goal is to make our feet the variable so that we're constantly moving around trying to figure out how to get our contact point to be the constant. Just knowing that can make a world of difference. Now, what you can do is just rally. And when you're rallying with someone, every time you hit the ball, call out what number you made contact in. If you play the ball up here, say 3 out loud. If you play the ball down here, actually say 1. Your goal is to start to read the situation, read the ball, and know that the goal is actually to play the ball in zone number 2 between your hip and your shoulder. Just knowing that we're trying to play tennis between our hip and shoulder and practicing that and having to call out what number you actually did make contact in so that you're accountable and you're actually working on your game that way will make a world of difference. So please realize hip to shoulder is the height we want to play on both sides. Knowing that will help you read the ball with practice using that drill. And then last, Colin, I love this question. The question was, on the backhand, it looks like, are your eyes deceiving you? And the answer is no. But are the pros really slicing their backhand volley? And the answer is absolutely. Notice Colin didn't ask about the forehand volley, which infers that the forehands are more forward. They're hitting through the volley, but chopping the backhand volley. Why is that? It's because the pros use a 1-grip system, which I would not recommend for you. The pros are not using a continental grip, by the way. The pros do not use a continental grip, an actual continental grip, where the base knuckle and their heel pad, base knuckle of their index finger and their heel pad are on panel number 2. That is not the grip they use on their volleys. They use a grip slightly to the side of that, kind of in between a continental and an eastern forehand. So we'll call that like 2.5, bevel 2.5. What that does is it makes for a very good forehand volley, but a chopped backhand volley. Because the backhand volley, the racket's open, so then they have to pull down to try to drag that ball down into the court. So what I would actually recommend, Colin, is that you use a 2-grip system. Yes, you heard me right. This goes against everything I was told to say by the USPTA, and that's okay. I'm fine with it. They don't mind. Well, maybe they do, but it doesn't matter to me. So what I want you to do is I want you to use a 2-grip system, which is flat through the ball on the forehand, change the grip, and flatter through the ball on the backhand. You can still put a little bit of spin on your backhand volley or forehand volley if you want. That's fine. I typically like flatter volleys, but if you want to learn to put a little backspin on the ball and be able to hit a little drop volley, that's fine. Learn the 2-grip system. Don't use the same grip on forehand and backhand volleys if you're struggling with your volleys. Now, if you're watching this saying, Ryan, I use one volley and I love my volleys, then why take your car to a mechanic if nothing's wrong with it, right? So you're good, everything's fine. But if you're struggling, then you gotta change things up. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna keep getting what you're getting. So learn to change your grip. What that does by moving it closer toward a backhand grip is it now gets the racket square up against the back of the ball so you can go forward and not down. Now, the arguments against this is, Ryan, you don't have enough time to change your grip. And anybody who says that, and maybe you're thinking this too, anyone who says that, to me, after 25 years of coaching, I know they've never tried it. Because anyone who says that has never tried it. Because when you try it, you realize you do have enough time to change your grip. You have plenty of time to change your grip, 95% of the time. And the one time out of 20 where the ball gets crushed at you and you're playing doubles and someone poaches, if you don't have enough time to change your grip, you don't have enough time to turn, you don't have enough time to step into it, you don't have enough time to do anything. So you're probably going to lose that point anyway. So we don't have to worry about the point we're already going to lose. What we need to work on is the 95%, and that's when we do have enough time to change your grip. So you can change your grip before you even set the racket to hit the ball. So if the pros used 2 different grips on their volleys, forehand and backhand, you would see the backhand volley be much more forward and they wouldn't chop the volley so much. So Nick, amazing question about practice versus play. If you can make your practice mimic play more, then you'll see not as much of a drop in your play because you're used to that type of tennis in your practice. Guilty Spark, amazing question about reading the ball. But if you have an idea that you're trying to play tennis in this area, and you could play a game, right, where every time you play the ball in zone 3 or zone 1, you automatically lose the point. You're going to very quickly figure out how to always play the ball in zone 2, right? And amazing question from Colin about the grips, or I shouldn't say the grips, but the backhand. Are they actually chopping? I mean, look at Roger Federer. He chops the heck out of his backhand volley. Nadal, huge chop on his volley, but his forehand volley, it's so flat. Backhand, big chop. If I were going to play Nadal, he came to the net, I'm giving him a backhand volley because of the technique that he uses. Now, if he changed his grip slightly and could actually hit the same type of volley technique on his forehand, then you would see him win more Wimbledon titles, I think, going to the net. But if you loved this video as much as I loved making it, please consider subscribing below and just check that you are subscribed. Hit that like button. Please hit the share button and send this video to a friend. I always love making these episodes. This is now episode 9. This is absolutely notoriously one of my worst rated videos of the week, even though I think there's such a great amount of content and value here. So thank you so much for watching. You work on these ideas and there is no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2MinuteTennis.net. You got this.